Many of you who live in Los Angeles and Los Angeles County may be experiencing a collective grief right now due to the mass devastation of the LA wildfires. And today I wanted to drop in and go over several emotional experiences you may be having and some coping resources regarding them. I'm going to try and make it as succinct as possible to really kind of respect everyone's bandwidth right now and to hopefully give some concrete awareness, understanding, and tools. So number one, many people have described feeling shock, which we know can be a part of grief. Shock and just a sense of maybe being frozen, maybe being numb, and not being able to fathom the mass devastation and the mass loss that has and is occurring. Number two, pain and sadness over the losses, whether those be within the nuclear of your home, your family, to the community, familiarity, routine. Number three, anger. A lot of people describe feeling really angry right now. Again, we know this is a stage of grief, and anger can also be a very mobilizing emotion, and it can be a safer emotion to feel when it doesn't feel safe enough yet to feel the pain, the loss, the grief, the sadness, the fear of what is going on. And so anger can feel like a way to have some control in an otherwise uncontrollable situation. And perhaps you're needing to feel like there's someone, you need someone to blame, you need something to blame, you need something to be accountable. And that is a part of grief as well. Number four, guilt. I have heard many people describe guilt, a lot of it being guilt over what they are feeling, how they are thinking, and that somehow it's not right. So maybe that is someone who's been indirectly impacted, not directly impacted. Maybe they didn't lose their home, or maybe they were far enough away that they didn't experience the same devastation in the same way. So they feel guilty about being scared. They feel guilty that they are grieving as well, that they are grieving with and for the community and their own experience of perhaps a loss of safety and a lot of what ifs and fear of it spreading, of how uncontrollable this has all been and how chaotic. And there's a guilt around I'm doing something wrong. And guilt around being a survivor, guilt around, hey, my house, why my house? My house is still standing and theirs isn't. And that guilt can kind of weave its way into everything. And we'll talk about how to cope with that in the next part. Number five, bargaining. We know that's a stage of grief, the feeling of the what ifs. What if I would have stayed longer and hosed down my house? What if I hadn't gone to work so early that day? What if I had grabbed that one thing? Why didn't I grab that one thing as I was being evacuated? And the what ifs can feel very plaguing right now to many people. Number six, what I'm calling a sort of blocking and an avoidance of remembering. People are experiencing and describing that sense of not wanting to remember what they lost, that they haven't yet recalled what was in their house before they lost it, and that as their memory keeps presenting new things to them, it brings new waves of grief and sadness and pain, and that it is so hard for so many that they don't want to remember that. Number seven, nightmares. People are describing nightmares of fires. People are describing nightmares of this desperate yearning to go home, and anything that kind of represents fear or being out of control, and a lot of anxiety dreams. Number eight, for many, this can re-trigger past traumas, past losses, past grief, and past experiences in fires where there may have been losses, past experience in natural disasters or other world or national events that have been on a disaster level. And that may be layering on top of the grief of the current events and feeling incapacitating or overwhelming, and may be triggering other behaviors to try and cope. Number nine, the yearning, and I mentioned this regarding the dreams, the yearning to go home, the yearning to go back to community, to familiarity, to routine, to safety, to what you knew. Number 10, tunnel vision. Some people are describing feeling tunnel vision, and that is a way of coping. They have tunnel vision about their list, for example. So I've got to go get those sheets. I've got to upload those documents for insurance. I've got to make this call. I have to make whatever it may be on their list, that is a way that they're having control right now, and that they need that tunnel vision to manage. Other people may have tunnel vision around staying frozen for a little bit, staying isolated for a little bit, numb. They may feel like, I cannot access that list. I know I'm going to have to make those calls or do those things. I'm having trouble accessing that, and I want to focus on anything else. And we're seeing a lot of different ways that that's manifesting for people. It may be staying and wanting to stay in a movie theater. It may be having conversations with people in their lives where they talk about anything else that feels more normal and familiar to them, and avoiding talking about the fires. Some people may need to sit and cry with a therapist or a friend or a family member and only talk about the loss right now. So again, it's individual for everyone, and it may be shifting every moment, every day. And the frozen feeling is the last one, number 11, frozen, feeling frozen and not knowing which step to take, or feeling at capacity and feeling really unable to make that next move and not knowing what it is. On one hand, your brain knows maybe all those things that have to happen. And on another hand, you don't want to know. You don't want to know, and you don't want to have to face it, because it makes it more real. So let's talk about some of the coping as you navigate the path ahead. Number one, giving yourself permission to feel this way. A lot of people are feeling guilt over feeling like they shouldn't be feeling the way that they're feeling. You have permission to feel whatever it is. You are not the next person. Your experience is not probably going to be the same as the next person. And whether you have to mobilize and take action, whether you are feeling incapacitated, whether you are angry, whether you are feeling unusually fine, and the list goes on, it's okay. And again, it is going to shift. That may feel like it will never shift. It may feel all encompassing and defining and engulfing. Things will shift, and it is not wrong. Whatever is happening for you is not wrong. We just don't want you to feel or experience or do anything that will cause harm to you as you navigate this process. Which brings me to number 2, is receiving support. And if that, for many, and I'm really conscious of this, for many, it may feel like I don't have the bandwidth to reach out and figure out where those resources are right now. If it's available to you, ask for help to access the resources. We don't want to make presumptions that someone else has the same bandwidth as somebody else. And so if you need access, or I'm sorry, if you need to ask for the most basic needs to be met right now, someone to bring you a meal, someone to help you find a therapist. There are a ton of pro bono services right now. And I'll leave you our email at the end, because we have a ton of resources that we can connect you with, from the practical, the supplies, and the mental health, and so on. But being able to ask for support and find and access some of the resources. For some people, that may be therapy. For some people, it may be movies, walking somewhere that doesn't remind you of the current area you're in, talking about anything else, talking about what is happening, and finding whatever that is for you to give you moments of oxygen, wherever you can find it. Number 3, establishing some form of routine. As I say that, I can almost imagine some people saying, are you joking? Are you joking? My life just got blown up. There is no routine, and no routine as I once knew it. And some people may rely on the parts of the routine that still exist, whether that be work, whether it is finding routine in talking with insurance companies. But for those of you who are struggling to do that, even if it's one thing per day that you can find, and maybe it is taking that walk, maybe it's making that smoothie you make in the morning, maybe it is, and again, that may trigger you, right? For people who have said, well, I don't have my kitchen anymore. I'm staying in this place that I don't have those things that I can do. What else can you find access to? Maybe it is walking your dog, with the full recognition that many people have lost pets. that their pets have been displaced and they're desperately trying to find them or be reconnected. This grief is complex. This grief is layered, and there's no right way. And as much as one coping tool may work one day, the next day it may not, and it may be something else. But again, even if it's one or two things you can do per day that can give you a semblance of structure or routine, it can give feedback to your nervous system that, as awful and chaotic and unstable as things are, that there is something that's moving forward, even if it's the smallest thing that may feel ridiculous. It may be repairing something. It may be making a little art project with your child that feels so little, but it has so much meaning. Number 4, focus on what is within your control. For many, that may feel like nothing, especially when you're feeling immobilized or overwhelmed and have very low bandwidth. But what's in your control as far as that practical list? And if you need help accessing things on the list, I need to upload these documents. I need to get them to insurance. I need to figure out the next step in my housing situation. I need to figure out school for my child. Their school is no longer exists. And to needing supplies, to needing towels. There's so many little parts. And so if it can help to find, and if you can't tackle it all, no one can tackle all this at once. Tackle one thing and ask for help if you need help tackling that one thing. Number 5, if you need escape. Again, we just don't want that escape to be anything that is harmful to you. If you need to get lost in that movie theater, if you need to curl under your covers for a little bit, go and take that walk with a friend somewhere else and feel anything else, talk about anything else, whatever works for you, you do you. What works for someone else doesn't necessarily work for the next person. And 6, move if you can in any way, moving the body. And I don't mean you have to take up that exercise class again right now. For some people, that is taking back or going back to that exercise class, or finding a new one if yours no longer exists. And that's the challenge here, is that each thing you're replacing or trying to cultivate can trigger the grief. But we still, when available to you, hope that you can access a place that can start to feel like some degree of normalcy in a very abnormal situation. So if it is taking that yoga class, if it is simply taking a short walk somewhere that feels safe to breathe the air, which again is the next joke, right? And that's the next skill that I was going to talk about with coping, is breathing. Again, many people may laugh and say, it's toxic air in many places, and you're asking me to breathe. So see if you can find the spaces where it might feel safer to breathe, like a movie theater, like going on a drive somewhere else, visiting a friend, where it may feel like you can access a little bit of breath, some what I call oxygen pockets for the moment. And that, again, may help give your nervous system a little bit of regulation and messages of safety in what has felt and does feel like a massively unsafe situation. And hopefully help you mobilize a little bit, moment by moment. Forget day by day if you can't do day by day, moment by moment, as things shift and as needs shift and feelings shift. And number 7, that was number 7. Number 8, finally, communicate. Communicate when you can. When you need to be silent, be silent. If you need to sit with people and be silent, that's okay too. I've had individuals show up and say, I just need to be with you. I just need to sit with you. For those who feel more indirectly impacted and feel like they're not doing enough, there's no wrong here. There are no words. You're not doing anything wrong. We're human beings, and there aren't always words for this right now. Being able to sit and hold space with someone means more than you think. And people often ask for what they need. Maybe they will sit in silence. Maybe they want humor. Maybe they want to cry. Maybe they want to scream. Maybe they want to be angry, or they want to hear about your life, anything else that's going on. And so that is something to consider. And if you don't want to be around people, don't be around people to the extent that you can be. Again, just setting limits on what is healthier for you and maybe not as healthy for you when it tips over a limit. And those are what I have for now. Again, this list is not exhaustive. And any of you having a different experience, really giving yourself the permission to feel it and knowing that it's okay and that it will shift, and that the community, and this is the heartwarming part, the community is really rising up to be of service and come together. And it is a pretty powerful thing to be an Angelina right now. And all of our hearts at Revolve are with you. And if you need any connection to resources, again, as I said earlier, whether they be practical, emotional, mental health, and so on, feel free to email revolve@revolverecovery.com. We are happy to connect you with those and to give you information about our free support group and any other resources out there. And there are many. All right. Take care.